the instant messenger on the left. Please feel free to type in any questions that you might have, and I will keep track of them and convey them to Steve at the end. If you're unable to type into the chat feature, then go ahead and unmute yourself when you have a question, or preferably actually write down your question, and then at the end of the webinar, go ahead and ask it through the microphone. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Steve, and God bless everybody. We look forward to a good meeting.
Awesome. Thank you, Gary. All right, so this morning we are working on a research webinar. Our goal is to get through the assignment that's due. I believe it's either tomorrow or it should be a week from tomorrow. You are all in the same course, the Cultural Trends in Ministry class. So that's kind of what we're aiming for, is to help you succeed first with this one assignment, with the whole idea of teaching you research methods using Life Pacific's library resources, so that as you work on your Capstone project, you understand the entire methodology and what's going on. So a couple things to work on. As I'm presenting, you'll see my full screen. For you, though, this is ideally going to be a back and forth that you will actually work on your project while we're doing this webinar. It's a live practice here. So I'm going to recommend that when we start doing the research itself, that you take everything that's on my screen and you minimize that. Well, I shouldn't say minimize that. Cut that to about half your screen, and then open up another browser so that you actually can work and follow along as I go through this entire project. You won't need to see much of the Skype feature itself unless you want to be involved in the chat. Really, you're going to want to see what's going on my my research screen, my web browser, as we work our way through this. So let me just kind of click over here to our agenda for today. Here we go. So our agenda is based on the assignment itself. Now, let me get a quick yes or no. How many of you have downloaded the assignment for week 2? Or do you even know what I'm talking about?
I have.
All right. So I got a few people typing yes that they have. Cool. If you have not, here within the Skype feature, you should have, where is it? The shared documents. Gary, do you know how to get to the shared documents? I've attached several documents, including the actual assignment.
Yes. So on the bottom of your Skype screen, you'll have the video image icon of a microphone, and then the icon of a computer screen. If you click on that, and then right in the middle of the pop-up will say well, let's see here, add attachments. We don't want to add attachments. I'm sorry, I said attached items.
Managed content, it looks like.
Yeah, managed content. There we go.
So that's where you're going to find the assignment if you don't have it. There's also a couple other handouts that I will present as we go through the webinar itself. So with the assignment in mind, this is our agenda. The first thing we're going to do is find books and ebooks, and we'll actually try to do that in one tab of your browser, and that will actually answer questions 2 and 6 on that assignment. Then we're going to find books using another library, and that's really going to be, click on one book and find your zip code. You enter that, and you should be able to find books, and that's in question 3. Then we're going to talk about how do you find articles in academic journals. We're going to talk about using the material that's available here at Life Pacific. All of those journal articles, a huge number of them are available to you. So we'll talk about how to use limiters, using ProQuest, which is one of the major databases, Atlas, which is another. And then when we get to question 7, it's dealing with outside Life Pacific, how to use Google Scholar, how to use interlibrary loan for articles that you might find in Google Scholar or elsewhere. And then once we've done that, you should have 4 or 5 tabs opened. Each one of those basically represents a question on the worksheet. So you should just be able to copy paste from there. And once we're done with that, we can work on a Q&A. Gary and I plan on sticking around for a bit after this. So if you've got questions, you didn't find enough material for the answer, we can work with that. So that's kind of our agenda, where we're going for the next hour. It should take us about an hour to do this as we work together on this. Alrighty, so with that in mind, let me flip pages here and find out where I'm supposed to be. I mentioned going split screen. That's going to be the way that most of you will be able to do this. If your screen is small, so if you're at a 14-inch monitor or something like that, you might want to just minimize mine and then do your work and go back and forth. I will try, as I describe, where to click. I'll try to give directions like click the button in the upper right corner and that sort of thing so that it makes sense. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to click over to one of my browsers. Alrighty, so the first thing I want to do is I want to go to lifepacific.edu. This, hopefully you recognize, this is the college's website. And from the middle, there is a menus button. You click on menu, and there in the middle, just off to the right, it says library, or it says library. So we're going to go ahead and click on library. And this takes us to the library website. And if you have not bookmarked that yet, please do. Over the next couple of years as you work on your degree, well, I guess you have, what, a year and a half left. Over the next year and a half as you work on your degree, you will be coming back to this for research, not just for this class, but for several of your classes and for your Capstone Project. All right, so once we're here, you are going to go to resources, and this is where we're going to find most of our things here. So here along this top row of tabs, there is one that says resources. We click on resources. Oh, I'm just looking at my paper and I'm jumping ahead to the next thing. Let me go back here to that first page, the home page, and we're actually going to start by finding books. So our books are actually going to be found in this catalog, and it says LPC Catalog on Discovery, and I want to click on the advanced search page. That's going to take me to the catalog. Now in the upper right hand corner it says sign in. Now in my instructions through the emails telling you about this, one of the things I recommend is that you learn how to sign in already, that you've gone through the walk-in process. Because you're off campus, to have access to all of our databases, you're going to need to sign in. So on this upper right hand corner, go ahead and click sign in and follow your prompts to sign in as you have. All right, now I'm going to ask a real quick question here. Did everybody sign in?
Yep.
Yes, where'd my Skype go? Are we all good? We're all signed in?
Yes.
Sí, está bien. All right, let's get back here
Okay,
to
this is Rick Bick, Steve, and I'm already lost because I can't find this. I'm not, with all these websites for Life Pacific, I'm not sure which one you're at, and I'm having trouble getting back and forth between screens and keeping up with you, so.
All right, I'm starting back here at lifepacific.edu.
Okay.
Main school website. Middle column, it says menu. I click on menu and it gives me this list of departments. Are you there? That was Rick?
I'm going to instant message Rick.
Okay. All right. So basically, to continue following that with Rick, it was back to where it says library off the main page there. And to get to our catalog, we clicked advanced search. With that, we signed in using the upper right hand corner. Hopefully you've all followed the videos or the tutorial, figured out how to do that, and so we are good to get going here. All right, so this advanced search gives me multiple options on what to search for: keyword, title, author. So if I actually knew the title of a book, I could enter that in that line. If I knew the author of a book, I could enter it in that line. Up here in the top where it says keyword, that's what most people are used to using as they Google things. We just enter keywords and hope something good comes up. Now, in this case, what I want you to do is I want you to use your topic for your assignment, your first lit review, your first literature review that you're supposed to be working on. My example that I'm going to consistently use today is going to be hospital chaplaincy. Helps if I spell it correct. And basically, I am just entering it into this line. And when I've entered the word and hopefully spelled it correctly, I'm going to go ahead and click search. Go ahead and follow along with that. Now, on this first page, it's going to tell me I've found thousands of items. Hopefully you do too. Now, that is not the answer to any of your searches. What that has done is that has searched for these general concepts of hospitals and chaplaincy. They don't have to be on the same page. They don't have to be anywhere with, really within the book and the material. They could be anywhere. So this is a really general, broad search. What this first search does is gives me a list of books that I might be interested in. And so what I want to do is I want to use this list to find what's called the subject heading. Now, subject headings are assigned by librarians, and they really are attempting to describe at least 40% of the content of the book. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick one of these books, and so I'm going to look through my list and I'm going to find one that seems most appropriate to my concept of hospital chaplaincy. My very first book looks like it could be. Second book, several of these look like these would be appropriate. And I'm just going to come down here. I'll just pick the first book anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the title of the book, and that's going to take me to what's called the materials page. So over on the right hand side now, it has a description of the book. It's got the author, title. In my case, it says as an ebook, which means this book is available electronically. Under descriptions, and this is what I want you all to click on. If you click on description, it then explodes things, so it shows the publisher, the edition, and so forth. It shows the ISBN of the book. And what's really great about using the description is it often has either a table of contents, or sometimes it will actually have the author's description or the publisher's description of the book. So it gives you a good idea of what's in the book rather than just going off the title. Even better than that are these subject headings, and they're listed as subjects. And I want to tell you this, the most precise way of research using a catalog, a library catalog, is to use the subject heading. So in my case, as I'm looking at this, I see that this is a book about Great Britain. So it's Great Britain National Health Services. Third one down, it says chaplains, hospital. It's also listed down here at the bottom as chaplains, hospital. So what I entered as hospital chaplaincy, that's fine as a keyword, but the actual subject that's being used is chaplains, hospital. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight that particular term, and I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to go back to my main page here. Oh, I'm going to go, sorry, wrong button here. I'm going to go back to the actual catalog, the first page of the catalog, and I'm going to paste that subject heading in my case, chaplains, hospital. But I'm no longer doing a keyword search. I am now doing a subject search. So where it says keyword, I'm going to click on, and I can change it to author, ISBN, journal, subject. Here's the subject. This is what I'm wanting, subject searching. This is, as I said, the most precise way of doing the research. Everything that I find now will be at least 40% of its content should be about chaplains, hospital chaplaincy. So now when I search, instead of having 2,700, I now have just 1,200. So the work has been done. Every book now has to deal with hospital chaplaincy. So it's eliminated a lot of the material that would have been slightly related or possibly related, and is just now to the subject of hospital chaplaincy. Hopefully that makes sense. So what we've done is we have found books around the world, because that's what our catalog does, that are dealing with the subject of hospital chaplaincy. Now, for your assignment, you need to do just books that are available at LPC. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to this left-hand column of this results list. On the left-hand side, these are what are called limiters. They will shrink your list. And so I'm going to change this from Libraries Worldwide in the first thing to Life Pacific College. I'm not going to change it to Ignite or to San Dimas because that tends to mess up things with the ebooks. I'm just going to click on the button to Life Pacific College. And so I go from 1,200 results to 34. Now, if you're following along, you probably dropped your list to some smaller, much smaller number, which makes it much more manageable for you to know what's actually available to you. And it also lets you know just what's here, what's available through Life Pacific. Alrighty, so with those 34 books, if I were to spend the next 5-10 minutes just looking through this list, looking through those titles, and actually looking at the descriptions, I could probably find 5 or 6 good books that are related to my subject. All right, so that tab right now, as is, that tab can be used as the answer to question 2 on your assignment. As in, oh look, I need to do question number 2 on this assignment, and it says list 3 to 5 books. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Your first 5 items should be just fine as far as the books for this particular assignment. Okay, now I don't want to change anything, but I'm going to move to question 6, and that's only because that's the way the worksheet is worded. So now I'm going to go back to that left-hand side with those limiters. I'm going to scroll down past library, down to where it says format, and I'm going to click on the one that says ebook. So when I click on ebook, I've now changed my list from all the books that were available at Life Pacific with that subject to just the ebooks available at Life Pacific with that subject. And so now I have, in my case, I've got 3 ebooks. That list is the answer to question number 6. All right, how are we doing? Gonna quick check in here and see how are things going. All right, Deb said she's doing okay. How are the rest of you guys doing?
Hi, Steve. Mine doesn't give the option for ebooks.
Okay, under format?
Yes.
Okay.
It's article and chapter.
Okay. The subject then may not actually have any ebooks, or can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Where it says format, it starts with the top 6 formats. Possibly if you click show more, do you see that at the bottom of my list of formats?
Yes.
Okay, that will show all the formats that are available, and in some cases, ebooks get hidden underneath that.
Okay. Yeah, there's no ebooks.
There's no ebook. All right, so the subject you chose might be too narrow.
Okay.
And if that's something that you want to talk about at the end, I would absolutely love to see what subject you actually picked. Because in some cases, it's the first 2 words, it might be the first 3 words that are the actual subject, and some of the rest of it might be additional subjects that are being added to it. That's a little long and advanced kind of conversation there. All right, how's everybody else doing?
Steve, I don't see your page.
You don't see my page.
Nope.
That is a fascinating issue because I am sharing my entire screen. Did you minimize the Skype conversation?
I minimized it, but pulled it back up, and there's I just see your face.
You just see my. I am sorry about that. Sorry. I am currently sharing, so I don't know what happened there. Let me see if I can. I'm going to unshare real quick and then share again. All right. Stop sharing. And then I'm going to go ahead and share my desktop again. And hopefully my screen is back.
It's loading.
All right.
Okay, your screen's back.
Okay. So rather than clicking minimize or something like that, try to grab one of the corners and try to just kind of pull it down so it's smaller.
Yeah, I did that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Even if you've just got a corner showing of your browser and the Skype so that you can go back and forth, that might be what you end up having to do here.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So it looks like people have been able to follow along, and you kind of got that concept. So let me go back to my screen. Okay. So in this first tab, we have the answers to both questions 2 and question 6. Question 3 is about visiting another library. So what I'm going to go do is I'm going to change under this limiter on the left-hand side from Life Pacific College back to libraries worldwide. Okay, so now it raises my number, in my case, from 34 to 1,200. So what I want to do then is I want to see if any of these books are available at another library. So let's say I've got, my second book here happens to be an ebook. Well, I wonder if it's available nearby as a hardback, because reading ebooks is terrible. Personal opinion. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the title of the book. And again, this opens up the material page. Now, we had opened up descriptions earlier, but I'm going to scroll down. There's a big blue bar that says availability. Okay, and it tells me that this book is an ebook, but underneath that, it then says libraries worldwide. So it says search location. Right there, I'm going to enter in my zip code. Now, in this case, I am just going to make up something which I think is like middle of the country, and I'm just entering a zip code. Hopefully, it's the zip code closest to you. And when I hit search, well, it was supposed to, but it did not. Maybe that's not a real zip code.
So let me give you an option. 68114.
68114. All right, good. That actually worked. Okay, so right now it then went to that particular zip code, and now is giving me the most local libraries that are available. It used to give us mileage, how far from that particular zip code to the nearest library, but here we've got this. Let me see if I hit plus, if it shows anything. It actually gives us the address and phone number of the library. So if I wanted this book and I happen to be somewhere in Nebraska, and I wanted this particular book, I could go to this particular address. I might even call this particular phone number to find out what their hours of operation are. But if I wanted to find it in their bookstore or in their library, I can actually click on the link. That link will take me into their catalog, no longer our catalog. It'll take us into their catalog, and it'll give us the call number so that you can find it on their shelf. So it's a wonderful aspect of being able to find some of these books. Some of you live in some places where there aren't really that many libraries or academic libraries around, and so this is one of those ways to find some of these items. So find a book that you like and see what's around you. With that, that begins to answer question number 3. It's just basically finding the libraries that are closer to you by entering in your zip code in that search box. All right, how's that working for you? We doing okay? Another check-in here. What is an OPAC address? Okay, so that's an OPAC is basically an online catalog. So what we're dealing with here, this green or this blue, gray, and white screen where we're looking at books in a catalog, that's Life Pacific's OPAC. So when you clicked on that and it says OPAC address, that's taking you to their catalog and the book there. Hopefully that sounded reasonable. All right, so we're doing okay then. Oh, Gary's giving the technical answer. All righty. So that's how to find books. So as you're working on this assignment, as you're working on your lit review down the road, that's how you're going to find books. Basically, you start with a keyword. Once you've found one book that seems most appropriate, you look under descriptions and find the subject heading. Use the subject heading to search. You can add keywords later if you've got too many books, but you can start just with that subject heading. Once you've found the subject heading, see if it's available through Life Pacific. If not, try some of these other libraries by changing Library Worldwide. So that really does solve a lot of those issues with finding books. Now, beyond books, you are going to want to use articles. And so now we're going to move into finding articles. So this is a slight shift in the sense that we're going to change out from this catalog. We're going to move back to Life Pacific's library's website, and we will search from within that. All right, now I'm going to leave this tab open, and you should too, because this one tab answers 3 of your questions on your assignment. So I'm going to go back to Life Pacific College. Again, going to go to the library website. So Life Pacific, menu, library. I told you to bookmark it because it's a great website. Sorry, I'm a little personally attached to that. But anyways, so on this top row of tabs on the library website, it says Home, Contact Information, Policies, Resources. We're going to click on Resources, and this is going to take us to finding articles. Okay, now before I start with that, I'm going to start talking about some of those limiters and other things that are going to help you find articles and be able to stay current with what you're doing. So we just used limiters for finding books. We used location, libraries worldwide, or at Life Pacific. We also used whether it was an ebook or not. So one of the major limiters that you're going to use with articles is the date range. Most instructors will require that your resources are current. Now, current means different things in different fields of study. In Shakespearean literature, 20, 30 years would be considered current. But if you're studying internet security, if it's more than 3 years old, it's worthless. So currency depends on your subject. Right now, you're dealing with the idea of leadership, and in some aspects of ethics and biblical studies. So typically, I'm going to say 10 years is probably current enough. But when in doubt, ask your instructor. So when we're doing this, we're going to look for one of the limiters is going to be the date. And so we will limit to 5 years or 10 years so that we have a list of items that are up to date, not something from the 1980s or 70s or something like that. One of the other things that instructors tend to ask for is that it is a peer-reviewed journal. Now they might use different terms, peer-reviewed, refereed, academic or scholarly. Those all kind of mean the same thing. And let me just kind of show you what a peer review cycle is. Let me see, we've got one of these. All right, so I'm going to blow this up to full screen. Whoa, that's too big. So this is kind of the peer review process. I'm going to drop it down just a little bit so it fits on one screen. So typically an author, scholar, whatever, an author submits an article to a journal and they send it into the general editor. The editor then rejects right away, doesn't fit their needs or whatever. They return for edits or they send it for review. And this is typically what they do is a lot of academic journals will have 2 or 3 peers who are experts in a field. And so the article will be copied and then sent to those peers, and they will reject it, accept it, or return for edits. Typically, peers are going to reject articles that are poorly written or don't back up their ideas with facts and things like that, or if it's just a rehashing of something that everybody else has already written. They tend to accept things that are unique, something that add to the body of work, that sort of thing. And what they might do for returning for edits is if there's one or two pieces that are not strong or not strong enough compared to the rest of the article, they'll just send some suggestions about how to improve that area, or if the author left something out. So once it goes through the peer, it goes back to the editor, who again may reject it, may return it to the author for these edits saying, hey, we like it, we'd publish it if you fixed these 3 things. Or they might, as I said, reject completely. Or if it's good enough, typically not on the first round, but if it goes through, it'll be sent to the journal to be actually published. And so that's kind of the process. It's a cycle. It often will go back to an author once or twice before it actually gets to the point of being published. So that's peer review. What this process ends up doing is improving the quality of what gets written, and what gets published therefore tends to be of the highest quality. So when your instructors are asking for peer-reviewed journals, peer-reviewed articles, they're looking for the highest quality. They don't want you quoting somebody's blog where it's going to be somebody's opinion. What they want is something that's backed by facts and good scholarship. So that's the peer review process. Alrighty, so when we go through and we start finding articles, we will probably use 2 limiters at least. And those will be peer-reviewed or scholarly art journal or article, and the date limit. Alrighty, so our question 4 on our worksheet has to do with using the ProQuest databases. So here I am back to my resource page. And in this center column, it says databases, and it mentions 2 of our database hosts. They're the larger of the publishers. I shouldn't say publishers, digital publishers. EBSCO, which hosts several different databases that we subscribe to, and then ProQuest, which hosts a few that we subscribe to. For what we're doing, this Abian form will probably be what most of your material comes from, and this ProQuest Research Library, great resource for a lot of what we're doing. So I'm going to click this link that says ProQuest, dead center on the page. Now, if you were at home and you had not signed in already, you would hit a sign in page saying you need to sign in so that you can access this page. So everybody should be here, and this is their basic search page. Well, I don't like basic search pages. I like my advanced search pages. It gives me a lot more options. So I've got multiple boxes, I've got multiple drop downs, so I can search for subjects, titles, authors, and you can see I've got some of the limiters already here at the bottom. Alright, so here I am in ProQuest. I'm on the advanced search page, and I'm going to use my same example that I've done already. So I'm going to enter hospital chaplaincy. You go ahead and search for your title, or your, I should say, keywords. So I'm just using this as keyword search. And remember, we do a keyword search in order to get a list of articles, and we want to find one article that seems most appropriate, and then we'll use that. So I go ahead and hit search, and in my case, I found 2,000 articles. So what I want to find then is something about hospital chaplaincy. So I'm going to scroll through here, and on this particular page, I'm looking at not only titles of the articles, but I'm also going to want to look at the journal title underneath that. They tend to be in bold in this particular page, and so I'm going to look at some of these. And for me, I get to number 4, and it talks about healthcare chaplains and ethics. It's got a few things highlighted showing that the keywords actually show up in those things. I look down 2 more, and in this case I actually have hospital chaplaincy in a title of an article. Well, I'm going to pick that as my article. So I click on the title, and this takes me to the results page, well, to the materials page. Now, in this case, I'm still looking for the subject headings. You find those under this Abstract Details tab. So I click on Abstract Details, And underneath the very short abstract are the subjects. Hospital, theology, religion, patients, conflict resolution. And in fact, here we have some more. MESH actually stands for medical subject headings. And in this case, I see it's not chaplaincy, comma, hospital, or whatever it was in the other one. This is chaplaincy service, comma, hospital. So I'm going to copy that. And now I'm going to go back to my advanced search page. No, it did not work. Well, since I don't remember everything about it, I'm going to cut back and see if I can reconstruct it. In my case, I saw that there was a comma in there. So I am back now to a subject, chaplaincy service, comma, hospital. Now, again, I'm no longer doing a keyword search, so over here in this drop down, I'm going to change this to subject headings. So all subject indexing, main subject, I'll just do this as all subject headings. Okay. Now, to use my limiters, and limiters can be done before or after. So let me just point out that I could change this to peer-reviewed right now, and I can change publication dates. I could do this before the search, or I'm going to show you how to do it after the search. So once I've changed this, so I've got my subject, drop down to subjects, I'm going to hit search, and it says 37. Okay, so I've got 37 articles that deal with chaplaincy service, comma, hospital. I'm now going to go up here and click on peer reviewed and search, and it drops from 37 to 31. Okay, on the left hand side here, I'm going to scroll down to change the dates. I'm going to say enter a date range, and I'm going to start with 2008 and end with 2018. I'm going to click update, and I went from 31 articles to 19. Now, I don't know about you, but it shouldn't take me more than 15 minutes to look through 19 articles to see which ones are relevant to my subject. Now, you might have more than that. You might still be in the thousands. You can use the other limiters to shrink that list. You could change your date range from 10 years to 5 years. There's several things you can do to actually shrink that list. All right, but this results page is now my answer to question number, which one is that? Question number 4, which was the ProQuest databases. All right, I'm going to go ahead and check in with everybody. How are we doing? All right, Amy, is that okay? Trying to keep up? Little lost. All right. Well, how about this? What I'm going to show you next is using Atlas. It's another database, but we're going to go through the same basic idea. So if you mostly got it, you'll get it next time. If you're kind of lost, you should be able to get it on this next one. All right. So I'm going to keep this page open. Again, you should keep that tab open. That is one of your answers. So I'm going to go back to my library webpage on the resource tab. All right, so I clicked on that. Hopefully you followed along. You're back at the Life Pacific library page. Clicked on resources, and now we have some choices to make. All right, so now I'm going to work on Atlas. So Atlas actually stands for, here in the middle column, if you can read this, the ATLA Religion Database with Atlas Serials. This is really used for Bible theology ministry. So when you're looking at those ethical aspects, or you're working in one of your classes that is looking for a biblical thing, this is the database to go to. So I'm going to go ahead and click on EBSCO, and it's going to open up another tab. And we are working on question 5 on your worksheet. All right, now again, if you hadn't signed in, you'd be forced to sign in at this point. You are going to want to click on this EBSCOhost web, or at least I am. My Spanish no es bueno, so we're going to stick with the English version here. Up at the top, this is actually going to choose all of EBSCO's databases, and at this point we don't want this. We are just looking at Atlas. So right at the very top left here where it says searching this database, it then says show all, and then it says choose databases. This is how I'm going to eliminate those other databases. So I clicked on choose database. It then shows all of these other things that it's searching. I want to deselect, and then I want to go ahead and go and search just Atlas. You will notice that EBSCO is our host for Business Source Premier, which is one of those databases that you will be using for a lot of your business leadership type courses. It also is where we have our ebook collections. Several of our ebooks are here, so you'll be using EBSCO quite a bit. So I've now clicked, so it's just Atlas. Select OK, and so now I'm only searching one database. All right, so this is like our other catalog. This is like our ProQuest database. I'm going to enter in my particular subject. You're going to enter in yours, and hopefully we see what we can get. So hospital chaplaincy. Now it's suggesting this. That may mean something later, but right now I'm just going to do this as a keyword search. Remember, we always start with a keyword search. We get one list, we choose the most appropriate, and find the subject headings. All right, so here I've got my first list of things. I've got hospital chaplaincy, healthcare characteristics, 21st century. So I've got lots of different articles that have shown up here. Many of them actually look like they're the same thing in multiple articles. Let's see here. I'm going to click on this first one. Nope, that's a review of a book. Don't want a review of a book. I actually want an article dealing with this. So in my case, I'm going to come down to my fifth one, click on the title, and I look at the title, and it looks like it's an appropriate thing. It uses my keywords in the title of the article. I look at the title of the journal, in this case, the Journal of Pastoral Care and Counseling. Hospital chaplaincy is pastoral care and counseling, so I'm going to scroll down here and find my subjects. And down here it says subjects, and in this case, it's chaplains, hospital. All right, now I'm going to go back to my my new search, and I'm going to use hospital, chaplains, hospital. That's the subject heading I want to use. If I can spell it correctly. Apparently that helps. All right, again, I am no longer doing a keyword search. I am now doing a subject search. So I'm going to change my drop down from abstract author, title, book title, ISBN. Somewhere down here it says subjects. So I'm going to go ahead and hit subjects and click search. And so now every article that I'm dealing with, at least 40% of it has to do with hospital chaplains as the main term. Now, two of our limiters, again on the left-hand side, scholarly peer-reviewed journals. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to drop from 1,100 to 700, 770 in my case. Publication date, I'm going to change that to the last 10 years. I drop from 700 to 200. And in fact, if your list is too long, you can change that, like I said, to the last 5 years. And in that case, that drops me all the way down to 130. Now, if that's still too long, and 130 isn't actually really long. In this case, you can scroll through this fairly quickly as you go, looking at titles, looking at the journals themselves to see if it's an appropriate source, and looking at those subject headings, we should be able to find, 130 shouldn't take more than 20 minutes to cruise through to find the most appropriate articles. But I can come back up here to my search box, and I can now add a keyword. Now by adding a keyword, I'm actually going to shrink my list. So if I wanted to change Chaplain's Hospital. So that's my subject. If I wanted to narrow it down to how do they do with grief or bereavement, I can enter grief. And you'll notice when you start to type something in, it often gives you multiple examples or multiple hints. Now in my case, I wanted grief or bereavement, and I see that my third one down is grief or loss or bereavement or mourning. Okay, those are 4 synonyms for the same kind of concept. So that's a keyword, so I'm not going to change this to anything else. I'm going to just click my search. So I've got a subject heading that I know 40% of the article is about that subject heading. And then I've got these other words dealing with bereavement. So every article then should be my subject and this particular keyword. So I should drop from 130 to a significantly smaller number. I dropped to 10. 10 articles in the last 5 years that are peer-reviewed and dealing with hospital, chaplaincy, and grief or bereavement. So let me go back and state this again. The most precise way to search a catalog is to use subject heading searching. To make that even more precise is to add a keyword or two, and that will narrow your list to items that are just about that idea. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to do one last check-in here as before we move on to something else. Gary's been typing, which is awesome. How are we doing? Are we keeping up? When you say keyword, is that text, alt text? Yes, that would be something like text or alt text, or just leave it as their top, pick an option kind of thing.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah.
This is Mike Scott. Hey, just a question. Is there ever a time where you would use quotation marks?
Absolutely.
Or
If I'm looking for an exact phrase, I want to put that into quotation marks.
So in this case, we wouldn't, because we're just looking at a topic.
Right. Subject searching, you don't necessarily need the quotation marks, or you don't need the quotation marks, because the computer recognizes it as a subject heading, as a controlled vocabulary, the technical kind of idea. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if I were looking for a phrase, that would put it into the area of a keyword search, except I'm doing an exact phrase. So I would put that in quotation marks.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So at this point, you now have most of your questions answered for this particular assignment. And this has shown you how to use a huge number of our resources. It may not seem like it at this point, but when you realize these tools, these ideas that I've shown you, they work in basically every catalog that you're going to work on, or in any one of these databases. So these same concepts are going to work in just about anything. Alrighty, so I'm going to leave that open, and I'm going to open up a new tab, and this is going to be for question number 7 on your paper, and this is dealing with Google Scholar. Alrighty, so first thing we need to do is set up Google Scholar so that it interacts with Life Pacific. Alright, so I've opened up the new browser and I'm going to enter scholar.google.com. Alright, now a lot of people recognize this. They've used it possibly. This is not the main Google search page that you normally get. This is Scholar. This is Google's attempt to gather as many journal articles and books as they possibly can. Now that's great. They've done a really good job about that, but there is a lot of publications that are behind a paywall, and so you can't get them through Google Scholar. They exist behind a paywall because the publisher needs to make money and exist. But we can connect Google Scholar to Life Pacific. It will connect pretty good job, but it's also going to give us a broader search than what we're doing within our individual databases. All right, so what we're going to do is set this up. Over in the left-hand corner are 3 horizontal bars, and we're going to go ahead and click those 3 bars. And down towards the bottom of those 3 bars, it says Settings. I'm going to go ahead and hit Settings. It's got the little widget thing next to it. Go ahead and hit Settings. Now, under the 3rd thing down, it says Search Results, Languages, Library Links. I'm going to go ahead and click Library Links. And as Gary has used this computer before, and it's got several things here, I'm going to unclick everything that Gary had clicked on here. What Google has done is it has tried to meet all of our databases, but it hasn't necessarily done so successfully. So what we need to do is connect it to our most current catalog and so forth. So what we're going to do in this little search box is not search for Life Pacific, but we're going to search for LPC. I believe there's a couple of LPCs in the world, but I'll show you which one we want. So we're going to hit search. And okay, we are not Las Positas College. We are the bottom one here where it says Life Pacific College Alumni Library, get from LPC. So you only want the one that says get from LPC. Once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And now when I search Google Scholar, if one of the articles is available in one of the connected databases, it will show up as Get from LPC. All right, so I've got this here. Now I'm going to go ahead and click Advanced Search. Now you're going to sit there and go, where's Advanced Search? Because I don't want just one box. Again, I'm going to go to those 3 horizontal bars in the upper left-hand corner. And almost at the bottom it says Advanced Search. So over on the left-hand side it says Advanced Search. Go ahead and click that. That gives me more boxes to work with. So we can do individual words. We can do an exact phrase. Sorry, got a phone call and I'm not going to take that one. This is what happens when I'm in somebody else's office. Somebody else's office on the weekends. All right, so we've got different boxes that we can search for. We can do authors if we know a particular author. We can set date range, and we want to do that. We only want the last 10 years, so we're going to search the last 10 years. Then I'm going to go up, and I'm going to, again, keyword search. This is Google Scholar, and there is no... there are no subject headings. It would be wonderful if they did do subject headings. I think they could probably farm that information, but they have not chosen to do that. So this is just keyword searching. So I will say this, it's not the most accurate. So I'm going to go ahead and hit search. I've entered my keywords, I've entered my date range, and let's see what Google Scholar gives me. Google Scholar gives me 9,000 items dealing with hospital chaplaincy. All right, so if you look at my list, if you look down on my list, you'll see that the first book is a book. No connections, no links that I can really see. The second one says it's a PDF, and it's got an article, and it says where it's from. And to the right of the article listing, it says PDF, and it actually has a page link. What that means is, if it's got a PDF or a doc or something like that, it means that this work is freely available, or typically freely available. Sometimes you get paywalls. So in this case, if I wanted this second article, it doesn't say get from LPC, but it does have a PDF link. I can click that link and probably get the article. Third one on my particular list has a link that says PDF, and then it does say get from LPC. Same with the fifth one on my list. So several of these are get from LPC. So the connection has been made to our catalog. Alrighty, so you can use this to expand your searching for articles. Many of these are good articles, some of them questionable as to what they are, and questionable ownership about the article, as when it's got some of these, Wendy Cage or WendyCH, whatever.com, and whether that's a really real website or not. So there's some questions about Google Scholars. One of the great things about this is that you can see that you can see some really cool things. In my particular list, my second article, at the bottom in blue, it has a little quotation marks. That's actually a citing feature, so that if I were to click on that, it can give me the option as to what format I want to cite it. So in other words, it would create the bibliography entry, and here it has APA. So if I was using this particular article, I can click on that. I can copy and paste and put that into my bibliography. So anything that's digitally created, you'll always want to double check with the actual APA manual. But next to that is this cited by feature. This is a wonderful thing that Google Scholar has that you can use. If an article has a large number of citations, that typically means that it is influential. When you're doing a literature review, you're wanting to review the literature that's out there, and you're wanting to make sure that you're getting different perspectives, but you also want to know what's influential. So as you go through something like this through Google Scholar and you see cited by, and it's got a large number, you want to include those large cited by numbers. So in this case, this second article has been cited 68 times since it's been written. That's a good number. So this is a significant article that's been used by a lot of other people. My third article, well, let me see if I can find one that's a little more recent. Nothing really showing up here on my page. I was going to tell you about this idea of don't just use the big numbers. Because if an article came out 2 years ago, it's probably going to have very little chance to have been cited by other people. So definitely use large cited by numbers, but also look for the year that it's published. If it's been published within the last 4 years, you're probably going to want to use it in your research. It may not have been cited by anybody yet. It may be that nobody's really had a time to read it and respond to it. So that's why it's not necessarily cited by. So pay attention to those kind of that cited by feature, and feel free to use that. Last thing here I have about Google Scholar is my warnings. This is not everything that's out there, just what Google has access to. Not everything is from a peer-reviewed journal, so you do need to pay attention to that. Make sure that at least the title of the journal or where it's coming from sounds academic enough that you could pass it off. The dates are sometimes wrong in Google Scholar. Sometimes they put the date that they acquired it, not necessarily the date that it was published. So if your instructor is very picky about when something was published, that issue of currency, maybe you want to double check this. Do a Google search on the article itself and see if the publication date is the same. I mentioned that some of the quality is questionable, and searching, as I said, can be very difficult because it is just doing it as keyword searching. It's not going to be as accurate or as precise as the subject searching. All right. That being said, you now have question 7 done. Now I want to give you another tool that you can use, and that is called interlibrary loan. So if there is an article, such as this particular article here, the provision, for me, it's the second article listed. If I want this and it does not say get from LPC, I am going to copy the title of this particular article. Now I'm going to go back to this is going to sound weird, I'm going to go back to the book catalog. So here I went to Life Pacific. Here's our website. I'm going to go back to Advanced Search. And I'm actually going to hit paste for the title. This catalog not only searches books, but it does search several databases. Not everything, but it searches several. So I'm going to go ahead and hit search with the title of that journal in there. And in this case, it shows up. All right, now, I don't know what you've got going on your page, but if you could, go ahead and enlarge my side so I can show you what's going on. All right, so I searched for my title. It came up. Here it is. It says it's an article. It says it's peer-reviewed. Gives me the publication information and all of that. Over here on the right-hand side is the link feature, or I'm sorry, the site feature for our catalog. So it's going to give me the APA citation format. If I was looking for subject headings, again, I could click on that. It would give me subject headings. And now I want to come down to where it says availability. And right here is a blue little box that says request item through interlibrary loan. So if you find an article on Google Scholar, or if you find an article in a database that does not say that it's available, or if you find an article, however, and you can put it into this catalog and this little blue box shows up, request item through interlibrary loan, what you need to do is click on it, and you're going to fill out a really brief form. You're going to select article copy, the date you need it by, and then you need to fill out the pink boxes down at the bottom. So your first name, last name, your patron ID, that's your student ID number, and lastly, the email address. And what this does, this allows, how do I say this? This sends this request for this article to Gary, and Gary is able to request from a number of other libraries saying, hey, do you have this article? If they do, they will send it to us as a PDF, and it gets sent directly to you in your email. So sometimes when you hit a source on Google Scholar and it's behind a paywall, it says pay $30 and you can read this article for 24 hours, enter it here. You might have to wait a few days, but if another library is functioning at full force, you'll get a PDF within a few days, and you have the access for free as opposed to trying to go through a paywall. All right, so that is interlibrary loan for articles. It's a wonderful thing that you guys need to use, ought to use. It's available to you, and so feel free to use that. All right, I am going to go ahead and click on the Skype. And I am, how do I say this, done with the presentation. If you have questions that you want to ask, feel free to absolutely ask those questions now. If you did something and you couldn't figure out why it wasn't working for you, feel free to ask those things. Gary and I will probably stay on for another 15 minutes to answer those questions. All right, if you need to, open up your mic, open up your camera, and let's hear those questions.
Hey, Steve, this is Michael. When you went to the Google Scholar to connect with LPC, I went to the Google Scholar, and how did I connect to the LPC?
All righty, let me go back here. I'm going to go back to the same page. All right, if you open up, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
So
I'm at Google Scholar. Yeah, go ahead.
Upper left-hand corner, those 3 horizontal bars. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and click on those. And then at the bottom it says Settings. I click on Settings, and then it's the 3rd one down that says Library Links.
Okay. You
see that?
Yes.
All right, takes you to the next page, and all you have to do is type in LPC.
Okay.
So I type in LPC, hit search. It gives me 3 different options, and the only one I want to click is the one that says Get from LPC.
Okay, yes. Just click that box.
Click that box, and then you hit Save.
Gotcha.
And now whenever you come back to Google Scholar, that should be enabled unless you clear browsers and things like that and clear cookies. Then you might have to do that the next time.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Right. Any other questions?
Hey, Steve.
Yes.
This is Mike Scott. Hey, I noticed the on some of these, the ISBN number, there's like several numbers.
Yes.
How's that work? Do you just choose the first one, or
Okay.
is it just a simple series of numbers?
So if you're searching for, you're searching the catalog for books?
Mm-hmm.
Unless you plan on buying that book, you really don't need the ISBN at all. Okay? Now, often it'll list like 4 or 6 different ISBNs, something like that. It tends to be the hardback, a paperback, and an ebook edition.
Okay.
And if it doubles that, so if it's got like 6 or something like that, it will be a 13-digit ISBN, and then it'll be a 10-digit ISBN. We started switching from 10 digits to 13 digits about 8-10 years ago, and a lot of books that are still older have both versions of the ISBN.
Okay. For the assignment, we'll just pick like the first one?
Yeah, that would be fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Did anybody have problems finding materials, or did you all end up with more than 10 items on all of those searches?
I think the real challenge is we don't necessarily have approved topics yet.
All right. Well, that's a bit of an issue. Most of you probably have some sense of what you were looking for, and so you were probably able to at least get a broad subject. If you know, and to be honest, most of what you've done should count for this first assignment. Now, as you work towards the lit review assignment, which I believe is due towards the end of this term, you may have to narrow that down a bit, but typically it's gone through as the first assignment.
So many of you have asked when this recording will be available, and we will post it on the graduate guide to LPC library. I put a link in the chat feature to that guide. It'll be on the home page down towards the bottom. Now there are recordings from previous seminars available there too. So, and hopefully we'll get those out maybe today. If not, then early next week.
Oh, okay, so Sandy, it says on one search you only got one resource. What were you doing? What catalog were you in, and what were you looking for? And you can go ahead and unmute your mic.
I think I was in, oh gosh, EBSCO probably.
Okay.
I was, my topic has like 3 parts to it. So I've been playing around with subject and keyword and multiple items to narrow it.
Okay.
And I'm just going to probably have to just play with it for a while.
Okay, well, if you don't mind my asking, what is the topic? And we'll see if I can find what you're looking for.
It looks like it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of Asperger's syndrome.
Okay.
And how that relates to accommodations for people who are gathering in group settings.
Ooh, okay. Asperger's is part of the spectrum, so you may actually want to use the full spectrum. I'm trying to think of the name of the spectrum.
Autism.
Autism. Yeah, you might want to actually use the term autism,
Okay.
and then and we'll see here. And one of the issues here within EBSCO, we're dealing with a database that really is geared towards Bible, ministry, and theology.
Yeah.
So let me autism.
I think ProQuest.
Yeah, different databases, depending on what they're doing here. So I just typed in autism spectrum disorders. So if I click in that as a subject, Nothing. Let me click it in as all text. I got 8 just doing it as an all text with autism. But that also is the last 5 years. If I click get rid of that, 25 in the last roughly 10 years. So when I look at that, let's see here, autistic people, autistic children, autism. Yeah, so it's going to be something along those lines. You're probably just going to have to deal with it as autism in this particular case as the subject. Let me go ahead and try that.
I started with misophonia, but that didn't give me very much. So I went broader to Asperger's syndrome, and walking through the webinar, I was actually getting a few hundred.
Okay.
Coming back with Asperger's syndrome, but then narrowing it down to accommodations for people in social settings or religion, it's going to be a little bit harder.
Yeah, you might. You're probably going to have to play around with what you're defining as a gathering.
Yeah.
So that'll be something to spend some time with. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to say you might want to email Gary next week.
Okay.
Or is he on vacation next week? Email Gary in the next few weeks, and you might be able to get some sort of answer to help you narrow down what it means by gathering, congregation, community, and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. Do we have anything else? Any other questions? All right. I'm going to go back real quickly here and show you the library webpage. And Gary had mentioned a LibGuide, and in this particular case, I don't mention the LibGuides in this webinar. So on the home page of the library website, on the left-hand side, it says LibGuides, and the third one down is Graduate Guide to LPC Library. And if you guys have not spent any time with this one, this is a good LibGuide for you to spend some time with. On this page, you'll see down towards the bottom it says Research Webinar, and we will try to put this in today, maybe. We'll try to get this in here. It'll be a link to a YouTube video of this entire webinar, and it'll appear here under Most Recent. And I've got a couple of those flow charts that are there. This LibGuide also has things like how to contact the library, our library orientation, which is 5 videos on how to use the library. You've got your policies, how to borrow, things like that. Some other interesting information for you as well. All right, if there's nothing else, I will turn this off. Do we have any questions, comments?
So I am going to be gone on vacation from the 11th through the 22nd. I will check my emails and see if there's